Bang! Neeves Knives. I'm Jared, and today we're going to talk about Magnacut. Now, that being said, we're not speaking about these knives. It's not about the knives at all. I mean, I guess they're different heat treats from different companies, but we're specifically talking about the steel. Now, I've tried very hard not to be influenced by other people, but, I've heard all the rumors in the community, just like everybody else, so I obviously had what I'm thinking or what I thought was going to happen, but I did try as hard as I could to just let my opinion be formed by the steel itself, because in the past I've been influenced by the community and had a different opinion from my own experience. So that being said, let's get into this. So first off, I started with the Mule. Oh yeah, also I did notice Cedric Aneda uploaded a video on Magnacut today. I think he's trolling me. So I refuse to watch that until after this is uploaded. I really hope he doesn't make me look like an idiot during this. But shout out to Cedric Aneda. Love his channel. Love Pete. Love everything he does. And I highly recommend you guys go and watch that and get your opinions or get your advice from multiple different people, not just me. Now, and my opinion is based solely on my experience with the steel, the sharpening, and just regular EDC use, not from any controlled tests. So no controlled tests, just what I feel or what I think is going on through my experience. Now, started off with the Mule. And I didn't care anything about the factory edges whatsoever. Factory edges meant nothing to me during this. Spyderco's bevels are usually off. The grinds are usually off, but their edges are usually really good, but they're usually just off. Now, didn't care about that at all. I started off by sharpening it with a toothy edge. I wanted to do basically the same edge on both of these, maybe a little bit different angles, but the same finishes. Anyway, so I started out by doing basically a coarse finish on this. I think I sharpened it to like right around 500 grit and came out really, really good. Well, let's start off with this. On the stone, I put it on the stone and I could feel how hard the steel was. The steel did feel very hard and glassy on the diamonds. I sharpened it on a diamond plate. Started off with an Atoma diamond plate, and then I moved on to VENEV diamond stones. Now, doing that, I did notice that it felt glassy going across the diamonds. It did feel incredibly, incredibly hard. And a lot of times that can lead to a knife feeling slick and the bite just not coming up. But when I set my bevel, which, is always the hardest part when you're sharpening, is getting your bevel set. And that wasn't hard to do, but the steel itself felt hard. Hope that makes sense. Anyways, so setting my bevel wasn't really hard to do, but I noticed the hardness of the steel. And after setting my bevel, I moved along through the stones, and deburring it was a dream. It deburred, no problems at all. Deburred really good. And the edge, the result was extremely nippy. It had a lot of bite, and I love an edge with a lot of bite. So I was very happy with the coarse edge or the medium grit edge. And like I said, it had a lot of bite. Now, during use, it was cutting really good. Obviously, that's just the geometry of the blade, but the edge itself seemed to hold up incredibly well. And when it did start getting some wear, which was after a while, I was impressed with how long the coarse edge was lasting. When I hit it on the strop, it stropped back beautifully. I stropped it back on gunny juice on a leather belt, leather strop, and stropped back really good. No issues with that at all. So then I moved on to the polished edge. I wanted to see how it felt with a polished edge because the coarse edge was doing great. And I was I'll be honest, I did think that this steel was going to be a steel that was slick. I thought that this was possibly going to be a steel that didn't have a lot of bite, that it was more for possibly just fixed blades, not necessarily for folders. And we'll go more into that because as we move along, I'll just get into that in a minute. So I resharpen this, and I also wanted to sharpen it two different ways. I sharpen it freehand and with a fixed angled system, with a really good fixed angled system, by the way. So I sharpened it with VENEV diamond, resin bonded diamond stones, and I sharpened it to 3/2 micron and hit it on a strop afterwards. But deburring it off of the stone, I didn't even need to go to a strop. It came out so incredibly sharp. I mean, like insanely sharp right off the stone. I did hit it on the strop a couple times, whether it needed it or not, and it was hair whittling. I mean, just insanely sharp. I did it at 15 degrees per side, and I was very impressed with the edge it took. Now, I was thinking, okay, well, it has a really good edge, but is it going to be able to hold the fine edge? Because a lot of steels that are like this, you use them a couple times, the fine edge goes away, and you have a slick working edge for the rest of the time. So I started using it, and yeah, it does eventually get slick, but it didn't get slick like really fast or anything like that. It held its bite for a pretty good long time. And when I stropping it, it came back pretty good. So after it got past, where it wouldn't whittle hair or shave hair anymore, stropped it up, right back. Bang. And I was really impressed with that. Now, another thing I was very impressed with, because another steel that was kind of similar the way the edge took was K390. K390 is very similar in the way it felt and sharpened. And I love K390. Love it. So, and I'm specifically talking about the fine edge. Actually, both edges, coarse and fine. Now, the problem with K390 is that when you have a very low angle, at least from my experience, and it's a very fine edge, you can experience micro chipping, even if you're not being too hard on it, with a very low angle and a very fine edge. So, you'll start feeling little tiny, tiny micro chips, and they're not going to strop out. You're going to have to hone it or resharpen it. Now, I didn't get that with this. No micro chipping, no rolling, no nothing. It just wound up eventually getting slicker on the edge. So I had to strap it back up, and the bite does come back. Now you do want to use, good quality compounds and leathers, but very, very happy with it. I was actually extremely impressed, and I'm going to go into a couple things here in a second, but let me move on to the tactile knife, because the tactile knife, same thing. Oh, I actually used the factory edge on this a little bit because I was testing the other knife and I didn't think it really mattered, but I didn't let it, influence my opinion. So then I sharpened it up, and when I sharpened it up to the coarse edge, the first edge, I didn't change the angle too much. I almost wish I would have. I did change it a little bit, but not like I should have. I probably should have put it at a low angle. It was probably like a 20-degree angle. I freehanded it, and it wasn't too much different than the factory edge. A little bit. The bevel was a little bit bigger when I was done, but the toothy edge came out really aggressive, very nice. Same thing on the stone, felt incredibly hard. The steel felt hard on the diamonds, sharpened it with diamonds, but my my edge bevel sharpened right up, and then deburred really nice and clean, revealed a very toothy, nice toothy, sharp edge, and it had a lot of bite. So I was very happy with that. Now, I will say this, it did not have as much bite as the Mule, but it still had a significant amount of bite. I'm going to boil that down to geometry here in the end. So then I used it, and just used it how I would any normal EDC knife, and eventually, it does start losing its bite, and kind of getting slick, even though it's a toothy edge, it kind of lost its bite. So stropping it stropped right back up. The toothiness came back, not to the level I'd like, but it came back. And remember, this is only 2 experiences. I don't have a lot of experience with the steel yet, just from these 2 knives. Now, my opinions are subject to change in the future. Now, then I put it back on the stone, but this time I put it on the fixed angled system, and I took it to a mirror polish. Now I did it at 17 degrees per side, which this one I did at 15 degrees per side. Now this is 20 thousandths behind the edge. This is about 25 thousandths behind the edge. So the geometry of the knives are very, very different. And I can't say if their heat treat protocol is the same. I have no idea. But when I took this one to a polish, it still had a lot of bite. Okay, it still had a lot of bite. Not nowhere near the level of the Mule, though. It wasn't quite hair whittling off of the stone like the Mule was. But I think that's mostly about the geometry of the edge bevel I put on it and the knife itself, not necessarily the heat treat or anything, because it was still incredibly sharp. And I was very, very happy with it. I don't want to make it seem like I wasn't happy. I was extremely happy with the edge it took. Very, very sharp. Now, after I started using it, I did notice that my fine edge went away a little bit faster than with the Mule. So it did leave a little bit more of a slicker edge after I started using it. Now, I stropped it back up and the bite did come back, but not to the level of what the Spyderco did. But it still was very, very good. And so let me just boil it down to my conclusion. One, geometry does matter significantly. I think this is an incredible steel, and I think it's going to be good. I honestly came into this thinking that my conclusion was going to be the steel is not good for folders, but that's not true. I think this steel is going to be great for folders and for fixed blades. I do think the geometry is going to play a part, and the heat treat. Obviously, the heat treat's going to play a part. Now, I don't know if there's a difference between these two heat treats or not. I noticed that the results and my opinion was a little bit better on the Spyderco Mule, but the geometry is much different. The edge did come up more aggressive and it had a lot more bite on the Spyderco and a little less on the tactile, but it was still really good and very impressive. I was still very happy with it. And maybe if I would have did this one at 15 degrees per side too, maybe it would have been pretty similar. I don't think so, but it still was really, really, really good. And now I did hear from some people saying, and this was a few different people saying that they felt like it was glassy. And, when they went to sharpen it, they felt like it was glassy. And usually that means that your edge is going to be slick, that it's not going to have the level of bite you want. Now, I agree that the steel does feel glassy on the stone, but I don't agree that it comes up slick. It comes out with a lot of bite, and it does come out very aggressive. Now, this one wasn't as near as aggressive as this one, but it still obviously has the potential to do it. And a lot of bite. I was very happy with it. Like I said, deburring it was really good. Stropping back was really good. And the edge stability was incredible. I was so surprised with not only how long the edges lasted, but how the edge stability was. I didn't feel any microchipping, Sorry, my camera stopped. But the edge stability was really, really good with these. I was very impressed with the edge stability. I did test it on some really hard wood and things like that. And I brought this one to work. I didn't bring this one to work, but I did bring this one to work. I was cutting heavy straps, lots of cardboard, and there was some extra wood and stuff there. And I was really cranking on it and doing all different kinds of things, trying to affect the edge, especially after I already kind of got like an impression of how the edge retention was going to be and how the feeling of the edges were going to be. But from my little experience with it, I'm very impressed with it. I do think it'll probably be good on folders as long as the heat treat is good. Now, the geometry might play an effect to that. I'm not sure how it's going to be with maybe smaller knives with thicker geometry. Maybe it might not be as good for that. I guess time will tell with that, because I do notice a significant difference between the two. Now, like I said, I'm not saying that this is bad whatsoever. I'm happy with it very much. But this is significantly better, in my opinion, with a lot of the qualities, and that could be heat treat. It's hard to say. Either way, both of them had really good edge retention, good edge stability. They both stropped back really good. They both got a lot of bite to their edges, whether it was toothy or a fine edge. Just one was better. But all in all, I like it. I do like it. So I am very excited to continue to try more and more knives in Magnacut and see how my experience changes over time, or how my impressions change over time, and what I think about it a year from now after companies are using it. Now, I'm curious to see what they're going to do, if more companies are going to, mess around with it, and some companies are going to start doing it worse than others, and some companies are going to do it really good. I don't know how that's going to be. I imagine Spyderco's doing the exact protocol that was given to them by the maker of the steel. So Laren Thomas is who I'm talking about. Shout out to Laren Thomas for, doing all kinds of hard work in this community, and, spending so much time in making steels like this for us. And I think he does incredible stuff. And yeah, awesome person too. So there you guys go. That's my opinion on it. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I'd love to hear if you guys have any experience in it, or what you guys are thinking about it, because I know coming into it, I really, seriously, I honestly thought that I was going to give this not so good of a review. I thought, and that's just because I figured there was a lot of hype with it, and it was mostly just for fixed blades, and for folders, it wasn't going to be as good as everybody was hyping it up to be, especially seeing that most people were using it on fixed blades and not on folders. So I figured once we get it to folders, it's going to be like, yeah, this is really good for hard use knives, but not necessarily for folders. And in the end, it might end up being that way, who knows, right? Who knows? But so far, right now, from my opinion, I think it's pretty good on folders. I'm very happy with it, and I love the edge retention, edge stability, the way it sharpens, the edge it takes, and how good it strops back. So there you guys go. I love you guys. Thank you guys for watching. Peace.